All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about something that's a huge part of the neurodivergent experience, but for some reason gets overlooked all the time, and that is the powerful role of hormones. You ever have one of those weeks where everything that felt totally manageable just a week ago now feels completely impossible? Yeah, this quote hits home for a lot of people. And for so many with autism or ADHD, this isn't just a random feeling. It's a real, recurring pattern. It's this super frustrating cycle that makes you feel, I don't know, inconsistent or even unreliable. But what if I told you there's a biological reason for it? So what is going on behind the scenes here? Well, it turns out these ups and downs, they're not random in the slightest. Nope, they are very often tied directly to our biology, specifically to the cyclical rise and fall of hormones. This is like the hidden layer, the secret operating system running in the background of lived experience. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Okay, so where does this all start to get really obvious? Puberty. For so many neurodivergent folks, puberty isn't just about, awkward growth spurts and weird voice changes. It's a massive turning point, a genuine flashpoint that can totally reshape how they experience the entire world. There's actually a name for this in the research world. They call it the two-hit model of autism. So think of it like this. The first hit is the underlying stuff, the neural development that comes with being autistic. But then comes the second hit, and that's puberty. It's this absolute tidal wave of hormonal, brain level, and social changes that just slams into you and can make all those existing challenges feel so much more intense. And the impact here, it's not small. One study found that a full 30%, that's nearly 1 in 3, individuals with autism show a really noticeable decline in their adaptive functioning when they hit their teen years. And I want to be super clear about this. This is not a personal failing. It has nothing to do with not trying hard enough. It's a direct result of that second hit we were just talking about. So to get a better handle on this whole journey, we can look at something called the Tanner stages. It's basically a map of the physical process. It all kicks off pretty early, around age 8 to 10, when the brain starts sending out the signals to produce sex hormones. Then, by the time you get to stage 4, around 13 or 14, things are at their most intense. This is often when menstruation begins. And this whole biological timeline, it's the backdrop for all these huge changes that neurodivergent teens are navigating. Okay, so we've established that puberty is a massive flashpoint. But why? Like, what is actually happening inside the brain that makes these hormone shifts have such a huge impact? Let's get into the science of it. Right, so this is the big question, isn't it? How do hormones, like estrogen, actually change the way our brains function? I mean, how do they affect everything from our mood to our ability to just focus? Well, the connection is surprisingly direct and really powerful. Think of sex hormones, especially estrogen, as little helpers for your brain's most important messengers, your neurotransmitters. So when your estrogen is high, it's like it's giving a big boost to dopamine, which is crucial for executive function, and it's supporting serotonin, which, helps keep your mood stable. But when those estrogen levels drop, that whole support system just kind of disappears. And that's really the key takeaway here. When estrogen levels drop, it can literally feel like your brain's coping capacity just shrinks. Suddenly, managing your attention, regulating your emotions, dealing with sensory stuff, it all gets so much harder. It can feel like it happens overnight. And it's so important to remember, this isn't in your head. It's not psychological, it's physiological. It's your biology at work. And this whole roller coaster, it doesn't just stop when you're done with puberty. Not at all. For anyone who menstruates, this hormonal cycle is a lifelong reality. It's a pattern that repeats month after month, year after year, and it continues to shape the neurodivergent experience in a huge way. Let's take a look at a typical cycle. You can really see this hormonal wave in action. During menstruation, days 1 to 7, estrogen and progesterone are at rock bottom. Then you get this steady climb of estrogen preparing for ovulation. But then, look at what happens around day 17. You get this big peak followed by a super rapid drop. And it's those sharp drops that are so often the toughest part of the month. And hey, the research totally backs this up. Study after study shows that challenges with executive function, planning, focusing, just getting started on something, they ramp up significantly right from day 17 onward. That's exactly when that sharp estrogen drop happens. So again, it's not just a feeling, it's a predictable biological event. And on top of all the brain-based stuff, the physical challenges can be way more intense too. Research shows that autistic people report much higher rates of things like super painful periods, heavy bleeding, and just irregular cycles in general. So you're piling all of that on top of everything else. It adds this whole other layer of difficulty. And if you want a perfect example of just how much we don't know, look at this. These are estimates for PMDD, that's a really severe form of PMS, in autistic individuals. One study says 14.5%, another one, a whopping 92%. I mean, what? That difference is huge. And the point isn't about which study is right. The point is that this massive gap in the research means people are left completely in the dark, without clear answers or the support they need. Okay, so that's a lot. And knowing all this, the big question is, where do we go from here? Right? Understanding the problem is step one, for sure. But the next crucial step is figuring out how to provide real, actionable support, and honestly, how to advocate for change. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. After everything we've just talked about, this entire biological context, it's almost never part of the conversation when it comes to assessment, diagnosis, or support for neurodivergent people. Think about that. We're taking this dynamic, cyclical, ever-changing experience, and we're treating it like it's a static, unchanging condition. That just doesn't make sense, and it absolutely has to change. So, if you're a parent or a caregiver, communication is everything. It starts with just creating a space for open curiosity, where questions are welcome and there's no judgment. Normalizing it by sharing your own experiences, yeah, that's huge. Using the correct words for things, openly and honestly, and helping prepare them for what's coming down the road. All of this can make such a massive difference in cutting down on anxiety and fear. And on a practical, day-to-day level, there are definitely things that can help. Using visual aids like checklists for hygiene tasks, introducing big changes slowly to reduce that anxiety, sticking to routines where you can to provide some predictability in the chaos, and helping to build up a toolkit of go-to relaxation techniques for when sensory overload hits. These are all real, effective ways to offer support. So, let's wrap this all up. What's the main takeaway? Understanding this connection between hormones and neurodiversity. It isn't just some interesting science fact. It's not just trivia. It is absolutely essential if we want to provide support that actually works, support that's compassionate, and most importantly, support that validates what a person is actually experiencing. And so, I want to leave you with this question. Just imagine for a second, what if our support systems, our schools, our doctors, our workplaces, what if they finally got this? What if they didn't just acknowledge neurodiversity, but actually understood the biology behind it, the rhythms that shape it? What would that world look like? What could change? Something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.